I have to really ask a lot of questions, but I feel like this is not going to. It won't
No,
be.
don't worry, don't worry. I think that I'm going to ask you questions this time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one who makes the interview.
I mean, I'm okay. I'll try to be an open book about everything.
I'm glad.
I feel like I'll introduce you
Perfect.
first of all, because I have a primarily English speaking audience. Um, and you still have like a huge following, especially on Instagram. But just for the people that might not know about you, it's you go by it's Diwali Cosmica, um,
Perfect.
and your name is Camila Nobile. Is that okay? Um,
Perfect.
okay, good. And from I've been following your page, I think, since you first reached out to me. Although I think I was aware of it a little bit before because of
It was like 1 year ago, I think, that
yeah,
or more than 1 year ago. I don't know.
yeah.
I remember I sent you a message, but I can't remember if it was like September
I think when I looked back,
2021.
it was like June. Yeah, it was a while ago,
It
but
was like really long ago, yes.
yeah. But yeah, I think I have actually met some friends that like I think I see some people like they follow you on Instagram,
Really?
mutuals and
Maybe
stuff.
from Argentina. You're Argentinian
Yeah,
friends.
mostly Argentina. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious, because you're interested in psychology, you're interested in spirituality,
Yes.
you write. I'm kind of like you seem to have a lot of different areas of interest, and they all seem to neatly converge. I'm kind of wondering just if you could give a quick kind of explanation of like your backstory and how you came into these interests, and I guess what you consider your identity to be, if you consider it as like a
Perfect.
one specific thing.
I will try to do my best. So my
Okay.
background is actually quite weird because when I finished high school, I started studying law. So I finished my law BA,
Hmm.
and when I finished my law BA, it was 2019. So all those years since I finished high school until I finished my law BA, like it was like 5 years. So
Hmm.
all those years I was like working in corporate jobs, so law related jobs, nothing to do with astrology, nothing to do with psychology. But I have always liked astrology a lot since I'm a little kid. And then you're saying, for example, since I was 15 to until I was like 22, 23, like a lot of things happened in my life. So like very difficult stuff to deal with. So I think in that period of my life, I had to, like, apart from therapy and all those things, like more traditional stuff, I had to go to for things that were like beyond like the physical world. I have to like find some kind of like answer or something in something more spiritual. So I started getting more interested in astrology, especially I entered to astrology because I love Carl Jung. I don't know how you pronounce it, if Jung or
Yeah,
Yang,
yeah,
but
Carl Jung.
because I always mess it up with Spanish. So I love him a lot. And I started getting into astrology because of his writings. And then in 2019, I came to Budapest for a family trip. And I told my mom, oh, I want to live here. I was like, Mama was like, okay, Camila, you can dream. And then I applied for a scholarship and I came here to study psychology, which, if everything goes right, I will be finishing next month. So that's the story. Like my background has actually nothing to do with it. It's astrology or psychology. Then when I was like older, I got into that world.
Mm. And like just as like an aside, I'm not sure how much other people are aware of this, but Argentina has, I think, one of the highest concentrations of like practicing
Yes,
like psychoanalysts. Also, like everybody that I meet is pretty much studying psychology. Do you have like
everyone.
like an insight into maybe why that is? Like
It's very fun because every time I talk about with my I'm talking with my professors, I'm tell them like everyone in Argentina goes to therapy. It's something very common. Like people kind of judge. No, they don't judge you. It's like you don't go to therapy. It's like, how do you deal with life if you don't go to therapy?
yeah,
So
yeah.
everyone goes to therapy. And I was like trying to get to some paper or something like that, and I found like a news like a news from like the CNN
Hmm.
telling like in Argentina therapy is a must. Everyone goes to therapy, and that's true. Like I think we have like we are the country with more psychologists in the world. I think we are still
Hmm.
like in the top ranking, and
Yeah.
I think it has to do with like one thing I really love Argentina is like people are very open minded,
Hmm.
and I think we have been through a lot of things. For example, not only like maybe we haven't been to wars or things like that, like European countries have been. We only have been through one war, which was terrible, but it's not actually our history. It's like more something about like the people are always trying to wait like progress. That's what I someone else is going to listen to me. It's like, ah, poor girl, she's so innocent, she thinks
Yeah.
everyone wants to progress in life. Like, I'm even blushing because I don't know how other people think. But I think, yeah, I think this is because of that. Like, people are like trying to, at least they really try to do like the inner work. They're more open to do the inner work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do like, I guess, talking to other Argentines, it is like they're very I don't want to stereotype, but I guess like not super judgmental.
You can. I won't get
Yeah.
offended. I think they're very funny, the series of Argentinian people. So actually, I
Well,
found it very
I notice it's between Chileans and Argentines. That's where like I notice a lot of like you can kind of compare. But I was reading this
funny.
book like while I was like traveling, where it was like an anthropology book, and they talk about this thing called schismogenesis, which is this idea that cultures that are initially not that different because they're right next to each other, they really want to define themselves as not the other
Yes.
culture, so they'll start really exaggerating differences. And I was kind of wondering because you always hear like, oh, Chileans like this, Argentines like this. If it's like a maybe it's a product of that, but that's like as an aside. But yeah, the I notice also like when I go out in Argentina and you meet
Yes.
people, um, in general, they're it's not like Canada where they're not like unloading a lot of problems or like people are like drinking. Like I mean, people are still getting like drunk, but they're not like it's not like there's not this dark undertone sometimes, and I
I
wonder if it's
totally understand what
because
you're saying. It's not something you can actually explain. It's like a
yeah,
vibe. It's the vibe in the air.
yeah, because I think people they don't. It's a bit of a stigma here to go to therapy, and
Really? Still
so
in Canada?
I think maybe half stigma and half like it's expensive and the
Yeah.
quality of care isn't always great. The uh, People kind of use their friends for therapy,
Therapy.
especially they get drunk
Something
and
you
then they
shouldn't do. What you
no, no,
shouldn't do.
no.
This is the only thing you shouldn't do. No, you don't use your family. Don't use your friends. Don't.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I find that really interesting about Argentina. And you want to eventually go into like clinical psychology, or is it more out of curiosity? I guess.
It's your question is good because of course I want to do the master and everything I would love to do, but I don't really, for me it's the same if I do a like a social work master or a psychology master. It's like, or neuroscience master, it's the same. To be honest, I do it. I study because I like it. It's
Hmm.
not because I just want to like 100% be like a psychologist. I don't know that. I just want to have the knowledge because I think it's very important for me in my work, and I think it's very important for
Hmm.
me as a human being. So it's just,
Hmm.
and also I love to study. I think
Hmm.
it gives me purpose in life.
Yeah, yeah. I guess
You also
from
study
that,
psychology. You
I
also study
yes,
psychology.
yes. I'm currently I just graduated school and like I was able to do research and I'm kind of right now kind of in a research lab still, but very kind of loose because I'm working on the channel. But I do want to go back into doing research. I don't know if I'll go into grad school. I'm kind of figuring that out. But it's like, yeah, I do also like studying a lot.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Yeah, and I can imagine that. Like your job, it's like you have to study. Like you don't have another. It's like you need to
no,
be always like
I'm
getting
yeah.
reading and reading and reading and reading.
Yeah, and I like doing it, which is good. Like it's like quite. I'm happy now because it's getting sunny and I can like go and read outside more, which is get an excuse to get out of the apartment. But yeah, I don't know. My plans are very loose. Also, I guess I don't think too far ahead with this stuff.
The
Um,
best thing you can do. The best thing you can do. The best thing. That's
yeah,
so
yeah,
healthy. Such a healthy human being. Don't think too much about the future.
yeah.
It's very only you only have to think about it if you have deadlines to apply for like a master or things like that. Then you should be thinking about it. If not, you don't have to.
Hmm.
The best
Hmm.
thing. Don't. So, but
Yeah.
for example, you would be open to live like, for example, like, I don't know, take some years to travel. Like your job is very remote, so you could
Yeah.
actually do it from everywhere.
Yeah, like it was kind of nice to like when I traveled to Patagonia, it
See?
was like a whole month of I'm still thinking about things and like experiencing things, which helps with the channel. So it's like in a way I'm still working. But yeah, I'm not I don't feel like I'm missing out on something or like hours or like I can always return to it, and I feel very like grateful about that. And um I suppose like in some way you too also kind of have a pretty like loose like career in terms of like it gives you some level of like freedom.
You know that I think I think yes, but I think I go to the other side. So I think like I'm not really good with that because I think I overwork myself
Hmm.
too much. I'm obsessed with my job. I think I put too much energy. I hope like the years to come, like for example, since I moved to Budapest, I think I put too much energy on work because in Argentina you always get distracted. You have like too many gatherings, too many plans, too many things. Here there are not so many things to do, and also in winter it's like 4 p.m. There's no sun. Like I have never experienced that in my life. So I got like obsessed with my job. I was like work, 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 work.
Mm.
And now I'm like trying to like change this mentality and put like, okay, I should be more chill. Nobody's going to die. I'm not a doctor. Nobody's going to jail. I'm not doing law. So I can
Hmm.
chill a bit.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, that's the other thing is like uh, it's like a bit of a stereotype with like Latin America in general and compared to North American
Yeah,
like work culture, but it's like we do just kind of like work and then go home and then like repeat, which still happens obviously like in Argentina, but there is like a bit more of a taking your time and kind of like not really,
totally.
it's not all revolving around that.
Not at all. Like I think like really I always tell my friend that she has like two jobs, her corporate job and then she has like her friendship shop, like where she's like always organizing gatherings and we are going to this bar, we are going to this like weekend trip, we are
Mhm.
going to do that. Like they're always doing those kind of stuff. So when I came here I was like, oh my god, I have so much free time. And then when I go to Argentina it's like how I'm going to be able to focus if everyone is just coming to my house. I'm not even leaving the house. People are coming without telling me they're coming to my house. It's like how I'm supposed to write a thesis with this.
Right.
How I'm doing with
Yeah.
my portfolio.
First, I want to ask what kind of, I guess, on the topic of career or job, like what would you consider your role is right now? Like maybe not your career, but like vocation or like what you're kind of doing. Um, yeah, like which could be
I think what
tricky.
I'm
Like,
I think not like I think what I'm my identity is more like related to. I think like first I'm a writer, I would say. That's what
mm,
I feel like I'm most comfortable doing, even nowadays. The fact like social media, like life itself, it makes you go through like different
mm,
paths. But I think my identity is always going to be like close to writing.
mm,
That's my love. And now I think I'm more like a social media manager. I don't know, but I will say that my love is writing.
right. Okay. And do you like how do you find like inspiration with like writing? Like how do you find kind of the motivation?
First thing I think is like hearing people's stories. Like everyone. It's like everyone is interesting. Everyone has a story to tell, and I think that's what I love about people the most. Like everyone you meet has a story, and
Mm,
I think like I can capture like like a small piece of that story and turn it into a text or a small like summary or story, whatever. I think like from everyone I can learn something, and also when someone opens their heart and like show me their story, when I write things down, I think like in a way I am like protecting that part of their life like
mm,
from time, it's like protecting
mm.
from time so it doesn't get nobody forgets about this part of you because it's like so amazing. And it's like, no, no, I think it's I'm afraid of time, I think. I'm afraid of of time. I'm afraid of time vanishing everything. I'm afraid of that, like people
Mm.
forgetting about what's important, people forgetting about their history, about other people's. So I'm afraid of like people forgetting, I guess. So that's what I love about writing the most, that you can make things, you can play a trick on time and make things last forever.
Hmm. I really like that. That's like I think that's yeah, that's something that I was thinking about a lot when I was in Patagonia also because it was autumn and that's like a season where I think you become very aware of like things changing and like the falling leaves and the
Totally.
weather changing. And then just being on this trip and like you meet people and you experience things and you just like I had a conversation with my brother who I was traveling with where it was like that like you almost have this impulse sometimes to try to like grab it all and like
Yes,
hold on to it as much as possible. But that can almost kind of ruin it too. Like sometimes it's just good to just like you just like breathe and you just kind of trust that like these things maybe they won't be like memories. You're not going to remember every single thing, but it's like kind of the imprint it leaves on you. Like you will kind of come out of it like changed in some way, and that's like a
totally.
that's my way of dealing with it. But I also
And I,
get like scared with like time and stuff like
the
that.
nostalgic, the nostalgic
Yeah,
vibe.
very sentimental. Yeah,
I agree. I
yeah.
feel you. I feel you. I totally feel you. But don't you think, like, in a way, like, I used to be very, very, very nostalgic, but especially when people, when someone is in your life and then they go away, and you're just like, oh, I wish that person was still here, because people are like teachers, and also like for a lot of things, you want people
Hmm.
to stay in your life. But once one like, I think it wasn't like, yeah, one of my therapists told me that, but Camila, you don't have to be like this, because that thing that you love about that person the most, you have already, once you have spent that amount of time with that person, and have you seen that, for example, a trait that you love about someone a lot. For example,
Hmm.
someone is very generous and you love that, and you wish that person stayed in your life, and you, in a way, everything, every person that uh, goes in your path, you still have something from them forever.
Hmm.
Like, it
Hmm.
lives inside you. So although the memory can be banished by time, although the person, you can never talk to that person again, there's something about that person that will live with you forever.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
in a way, they will never leave.
Yeah, no, there's like the last video I made before I left, I was talking about interbeing, which is like a concept in active Buddhism. I mean, and just
Hmm.
in Buddhism in general, and it's like this idea that we're all sound very hippie,
Connected.
but like we're all connected, but just the idea that like the people that you meet previously and the people that you're going to meet later, it's almost like time is a flat circle, like they're all with you all at the same time. And it's important to always remember that, and then if you're really tuned into that, you're never really going to feel lonely, like the fact that like your ancestors are going to they're still with you in some way, and like even the people that you met a week ago that you won't meet again, they're still with you in some way. And the only way to kind of honor their physical absence is to like kind of appreciate their presence in your life in other ways, like as if they're like an aspect of you, I think. If that makes sense.
I totally agree. Like, I couldn't
Okay.
agree more with you. And I think with the ancestors, with something that has been very helpful for me to like, to this, like, to reconnect with my past and with my roots. For example, it's like, my family is like, from my daughter's side, that side, they're Italians, but from my mom's side, they are half Spanish from Canary Island, and half indigenous from like Santiago del Estero, that is like a province in Buenos Aires, in
Hmm.
Argentina, near Buenos Aires. So they were from Santiago del Estero, and I like, they have like, we have like very, very deep roots from them. So my mother was telling me that something very important is to talk to them out loud, for
Hmm.
example, to ask for protection or ask for guidance, especially for your ancestor, like to know that in a way they are like protecting you and guiding you. That's a very,
Hmm.
like, it's like in the indigenous roots, it's like very important to, in a way, like always be like, instead of like only praying to a god, like praying to them, like trying
Hmm.
to like, in some way, honor their existence.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's something that's very much missing in, I guess, at least in Canada. Like I notice, especially the constant kind of honoring and remembering of, I think it's like Los Desaparecidos, like the like from the dictatorship. Like that's like a there Argentina doesn't seem, or the Argentines don't seem that resistant into looking back at their past and like,
We love we Argentina. Argentina. When you do the natal chart of Argentina, we are Cancer, and Cancer is about like the past. We love in Argentina. We
hmm
love the past. Like
hmm
we drink mate. We do all these things that our ancestors. We asado, the gatherings all together, the family, the friends,
hmm
like eating all empanadas, like drinking mate. Like we love the past so
hmm
much. We love it in everything.
yeah,
Sometimes it's good, and sometimes not that good.
yeah, because you can sometimes it can stop you from moving on, like it can stop you from
Progressing
yeah, from progressing, but also at the same time sometimes it can give you in like insight into how to progress, like how to actually live in the
totally.
present. And I don't think, I don't know, Canada, we're a very young country, and we also just haven't had, I think, the same traumas in the same context we've certainly had, especially with the indigenous here.
Yes,
But
because you have like
that's
a huge, huge amount of like indigenous people there.
yes, and yeah, and a lot of them are treated quite poorly, and no matter which government comes in, they always promise to do things, and they never really do anything. Like really poor water quality, and huge substance abuse issues, and
So
just
they
like
have been very like separate, like from they have
yeah,
hadn't been like honoring them. For example, they have been very
no,
separate for society. They have like no laws or something that protects them at their land also.
like kind of like there's some laws, but then those laws also like there is a sort of racism in Canada towards indigenous people
Wow,
that I
really?
don't
Because everyone thinks about kind of like Canada.
yeah, but it's
Everyone is involved. No
it's
racism.
we
Everything
make
is
a
perfect.
we make a very good image of ourselves, I think, sometimes, but we there was like
You do.
a couple of
Everyone
years
loves
ago,
Canada. They say Canadian
yeah.
people are so always so nice. Even in The Simpsons, they say the Canadian people are nice.
Well, I mean, if the Simpsons say it, then I guess
If The
I guess
Simpsons
it's
say it, I don't know.
yeah. No, like regarding the laws, there was, I think, I might mess up this story a little bit, but in like the East Coast, they give
Yeah.
indigenous people the ability to basically fish as much as they want, so there's no restrictions. And the white fishers, like, they can't do the same thing, so they started like kind of messing with and like harassing the indigenous like fishers like a lot, and it became like a huge, which is like not the right way to go about it. Like if you disagree with the
Of
law, then
course.
you go to the you go and try to figure that out like legally, like whatever
Mm.
your opinion is on it. But so it's like there's a lot of resentment, and then also just like very negative stereotypes towards indigenous, and then the fact that we've like they're on reservations, like they're in their own um kind of thing. It's like not a reality that like Canadians really have to confront that much. So it would be good if we were a bit more like, I guess, like aware of our past in some ways, like for better or for worse, because I think it would help with like not repeating the same mistakes and maybe making the present
Totally.
better for other people. But
Knowing from you where you come from, like not being aware of like it having like deep roots, I think it's important. Like of course, like because it gives you like you build in a like a more stable land when
mhm.
you are like aware of your past and where you come from.
Well, I think of it as like when you go to therapy and you're depressed and you don't know why, and then you start looking back into your past, like maybe your parents or something happened when you were a kid. It's like it can give like a, even if it's like painful, it gives like a narrative, which I think is really story is, or I think is very important, is how we build like stories like for ourselves. Which is, I think, going back to writing, is like that's why it's such an important tool for anybody. Um,
It's so important. The story
mm,
that we tell ourselves, I think it defines everything. Like,
mhm,
and being aware of the story we are telling ourselves, of ourselves, our like possibilities, our dreams, like everything is so important. I think like even nowadays that we are so aware, we are like we have so much information. I think even nowadays we are not aware of how important is like our inner dialogue. I think it's like the root of everything. Like, meditation in a way is for that. It's like
mhm.
being able to sitting still and like calm your mind. So inner dialogue, I think, I don't know, but changing my inner dialogue was one of the things I would like say that changed my life the most, for sure.
How did you go about changing your inner dialogue?
in a very, very, very stupid and way. But for example, if I'm like catch myself talking something like, yeah, like treating me wrong, like mentally, like saying bad things about myself, like, oh, for example, like, Camila, you're not pretty enough, or you are not intelligent enough, or you should be working harder, or things like that. Like, I just try to stop my mind by telling things out loud. For example,
Mhm.
oh, no, no, I'm great, like, I'm great, I am great the way I am. I'm a good person, I have good values, I am always trying to help people, like trying to reconnect with my values, so
Mhm.
I remember what's really important in life.
Mhm. Hmm.
So I think like talking out loud, like trying
Yeah.
to change the narrative out loud, it is the best way of cutting that thought off.
I think it's like yeah, there's like in acceptance and commitment therapy, you can you're taught to like basically give your brain like a name, like Philip
Yeah,
or
oh, I
something,
like that, I
and then
like that, I
you
haven't
can
heard about that, please tell me.
yeah. Well, I don't. That's the extent I know about it. But I guess they also use it in like eating disorders. They'll tell like
Yes,
the person to give like anorexia a name, so then they
yes,
can like they're no longer like anorexic or
you
like you're no longer depressed. It's like you are a person with that, and it's like dealing with like kind of a bad roommate almost, and you have to kind of communicate with them and like tell them like, okay,
think
we're
it's
gonna do something
great.
else today, or yeah, it goes very like it goes back to like stoicism a lot, I think, and like kind of Buddhism. Like this is like really old, like but very effective techniques still, I think. um
Totally, I know that
yeah,
you're a huge fan of the stoicism, I know.
yeah, I do I think it's like, well, it's so ingrained with like cognitive behavioral therapy, and like a lot of psych practices today. And it's funny because it was just a group of like different thinkers across like decades and like centuries, but and they were just kind of mostly writing for themselves, but they came to kind of similar conclusions about um how to basically like train their brain to deal with the uncertainty of life and everything, which I think is just everybody. That's There's probably not a single person that like couldn't benefit from stoicism in some way. um
Totally. I wish they would like teach these kind of things in school, because I think like the teenage phase is like so complex for a lot of people. And
mhm,
if we had like more space for these kind of subjects that actually are not only about like just knowledge, it's like knowledge, life knowledge, not only
mhm,
about the knowledge, it's like actually tools for life to deal with
mhm,
like stress, things like that. I think we would be in such a much more healthier mental state, especially nowadays, because I think nowadays, like being mentally healthy, you need to protect yourself a little bit more than, for example, 20 years ago. Things
mm,
like nowadays is we need to train adolescents how to survive, I think, like to
mhm.
live like a healthy life in this like super extra connected world where everyone is, you know, about the life of everyone, you're like all the time surrounded by a lot of stimuli. So I think adolescents should have like this life training.
Yeah, like I somebody kind of illustrated the kind of problem like with social media, where it's like when
Yeah.
um you like back 20 years ago, if you were getting like bullied or like you felt really bad about yourself, you could at least go home afterwards and like you have like a safe
Disconnect.
space. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
disconnect. But now it's like you go home and it's just still all there.
Tot-
And it's you're basically constantly being told um
Totally.
like that you're invalid
Everything.
in like some way. Yeah.
Totally. Like for example, you feel, I don't know, you feel ugly. You go on Instagram, you will find like endless picture of perfect people. You feel yourself like I'm not being successful. Like you open your phone, it's like you TV, phone, everything like success, like success. It's like it's very difficult to protect your mental health nowadays. We need to be trained for this like new world we are living.
And what I find interesting is that when you talk to a lot of the people that are like perfect, they also have like the same like body
Thing.
issues and the same kind of concerns. And I've always been interested in um like the people that the rest of the population finds really successful, how their mental health is. Like, are we
Yeah.
actually valuing the outcomes and qualities that actually make people like happier and like healthier? Or are we kind of like, is everyone like missing the mark? And even like you like look at wealthy people or like celebrities, they're still like the I don't think anyone would argue that like the richest man in the world is also going to be the happiest man in the world. It's not like a, and I guess like on that topic, I'm kind of wondering, is this where spirituality starts to serve a purpose? Because we seem to be very good at like pursuing and achieving material
Yes.
means, and to a certain point, material means are really important for. I mean, you're going to be happier if you're financially stable. Like, you don't have to be rich, but to pay your bills and like
Yes, of course. It
needs and
gives you
stuff
like
like that.
kind of mental peace. Okay, now I can worry about other things, like a basic
Yeah.
need. When you have,
Yeah.
it's like the pyramid of needs,
Hmm.
Maslow. So it's like,
Yeah. And but then it's like once you have those things, there's still like in Canada, there's still a lot of people that it's a very like maybe at least before the pandemic, very kind of middle income compared to the rest of the world, a very rich country. We still have very like lots of very depressed people, lots of very lonely people, and it's like what is missing? Is there maybe like a spiritual component? Can spirituality kind of uh, maybe provide some sort of answers that material uh, things can't?
don't you think that is also like about like human connection? Because it's not like, I think like just a coincidence that countries that are more like community oriented have like less depressed like rates,
Hmm.
the suppression rate. So I think like it's also about like human contact and human touch. I think we are losing human connection. Like this is like really like I was reading a paper the other day that it's like say people are having less sex than ever. So people are not
Yeah.
having sex, people are not seeing each other, like we are not connecting humans with humans. And it's of course how everyone is going to get depressed if like we are not like having real human connection, like quality human connection.
I
And the
mean,
only time we
yeah.
tends to seem to like connect is when people are like drunk or things like that. It's like the only
Yeah.
way the way they are like actually connecting.
I think that's a really interesting distinction because I think it might be like a bit of both because there are people that get into kind of neo-spiritualism,
Hmm.
but they only do it out of like their own sort of need for like self-actualization, or they're only doing it for like there's this like there's this one, I forget exactly what it's called. It's called uh, like Mick Buddhism or Mick mindfulness, where people kind of have co-opted like Zen Buddhism in order
Hmm.
to up their productivity at work or something like that, which kind of is missing the whole point
Yes.
of Buddhism. And then also like people go to like I don't know, Coachella like festivals and stuff where it's like they're like, or like Burning Man where it's like kind of spiritual, but it's like very much like promoting like yourself on Instagram with like kind of it's the aesthetic, I think. And then
I
at the
get it. I
same
get it.
time,
I totally get what you're saying.
mhm.
Like, the,
No,
but it's like
yeah,
it's true.
and then at the same time, I think that there's people that are like they are looking for human contact all the time, but it's more
Hmm.
out of validation and not out of genuine like communion or community. Like you're not really looking for a sense of community that you'll be a part of. You're just like looking to be validated by the other. You're looking to be like and people do that in like romantic relationships. They do that like with like hobbies, with jobs, with social media a lot. Like there's still a connection, but it's like maybe not the sort of quality connection that makes people feel happier. Um, so I guess like what I'm saying is maybe it's like a bit of a combination. Like there needs to be like I guess this is going to sound like I'm starting a cult, but like more of like a spiritual community, like presence, I guess, in people's lives in some way. You can't
You know
really
what
have
is?
one without the other.
I think it's very interesting what you were saying because I feel like when I was young, okay, like well, I went to like for this like very like a lot of things happened in my life, so I was a little bit lost throughout during a lot of years. And I went during this, I have been always being very like lonely. I was like liked it to be alone a lot, but during some time like I specifically like kind of withdraw myself from everyone and went to this phase where I was like having like very minimum social contact because I felt that I was so broken and my identity was so demolished by all the things that happened that I had to spend time alone to reconnect with myself. And
Mhm.
then once, and it took me like a lot of years to be honest, it took me like a lot of years, But then once I could like, okay, I'm this person. I'm not, nobody else can define me. I know who I am. Whatever you say about me, like I'm strong enough to go back to social life again. So I
Mm-hmm.
think in a way it's good when people take this time like out to say, okay, I don't know who I am. I feel, oh, maybe something happened and I feel broken. I need to heal from this. And
Mm-hmm.
then you go back.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to, like, especially I think when you are young, to be very very aware of like knowing who you are without the people that's who you are when you are alone, who you are where you're not surrounded by people who are telling you who you are. That's, I
Mm-hmm.
think, is very important, because that's when you can actually build an identity, when you can actually see yourself for who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's good like to go on a trip far away of your home, or like a long trip, or like isolate yourself a little just to reconnect yourself, especially after you've been through a hard period. So you
Mm-hmm.
can then go back and nobody's going to tell you the story of your life, you know? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're naive, especially I was very naive and I was like soft, very soft, soft and naive, and yeah, and I feel like people take advantage of people like that, and like they're telling you who you are, so you need to be strong enough so nobody can tell you the story of your
Mm-hmm.
life.
I
That's
think that's
very
a
important.
yeah, no, I mean that's a really good point. I think that I've always been curious about online spaces, especially for like young men, that they are really effective at constructing narratives about other people's identities, and these people, their identities are not fully formed.
Mm.
They're like they're naive, like they're desperately searching for like an answer, and then you have these like angry charismatic people that like come in and be like, oh, the world is all messed
This
up, and you're like going, you know, the you can like save them. You just have to like buy this course, or you just have to do this, and it's like so bad because it's like 12-year-old boys or like 14-year-old boys, and they're like, you know, they're gonna grow up, and who knows what sort of like worldviews they end up with.
totally. And then you think about yourself at that age. We
Hmm.
didn't have maybe that access, you know? That's why something, some problems are like nowadays problems. Like when you were 12, when I was 12, I didn't have well, of course, my parents didn't allow me, don't even to have a computer, a cell phone, a television, anything.
Hmm.
But I was like, in a way, I was like very protected from all this outward.
Hmm.
So I think nowadays there are like new problems. The social media, like this super like exposure to media and like technology is bringing new generations like new problems that I think we need to be aware, like special like schools, universities, and these kind of institutions to know how to deal with these things.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I especially just like the constant information overload and everything, like the traveling, like you have a lot of time to linger, like you have a lot of time to like you're moving a lot, but you have a lot of time to just like you're so away from the noise, depending on where you travel. But like being in like Patagonia, it's like bad internet connection,
It's
and like
it's magic, right?
yeah, like you're just like with nature, which is nice, and
The
you're more
internet connection is so shitty, so shitty. We barely have like phone connection, but
yeah,
it's good.
yeah.
It's good.
It's great. Well, all you're worried about is just like you got to get up at like 5 to like go hike or something. You're like, it's and you better hopefully the bakery's open or something. Like you're just it's so like immediate. Like
What I'm going to have for breakfast?
yeah,
Mate with what?
yeah. No, and there's this one philosopher Byung-Chul Han who like he
I
writes
love
about.
him.
Oh yeah, no, you're yeah, I do
I
too.
love him. He's like he did his thesis. I even know about what he studied because I don't know. I think he studied in Germany and he did his thesis about Schopenhauer. So he's like a super fan of Schopenhauer.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's I actually just bought one of his books at the what is that called? Because I couldn't find it in English. I found it in Spanish, but I don't think my Spanish is going to be good enough to read this. But
Eros,
the
like la agonía de Eros.
no, it was the what is it called? Atonio, like the theater that became like a bookshop in Buenos Aires.
Ah, I know Ateneo.
Ateneo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, they have like a good selection of Byung-Chul Han, and there was one where he wrote on like Zen Buddhism. So I'm like, I'm looking forward to reading that. But um, yeah, no, that's a beautiful place. But the what I was saying is like he very much like believes that the practice of lingering, of like letting
Hmm?
things kind of like sit, letting things be like processed, is like completely gone now, and it's just like constant consumption, which leads to kind of like a self obliteration and kind of like getting away from like the present at all, because
Yes.
that could be potentially painful, and pain is like where the creative process happens, and that's why there isn't really as much creativity anymore. This is like his overall his like thoughts, I think. But I I think with social media, it's like lingering is you're constantly consuming things to kind of not have to linger, to not actually have to process anything in particular. You're like just sampling things constantly.
Yes, like yes. And especially like I think like the bad thing about like this the culture and like everything that we are too used to this thing like everything in a way can be replaced. Everything is instant, and you should like you can be like everything's like oh you can change it for another thing. You should be like even like emotional processes like are not very well like accepted by
Hmm.
like this time like no you should be okay you are you your heart got broken okay just in 2 3 days you
Mm.
have like there are so many people in this world you're going to be sad for one person it's like come on boy like not everyone is the same some people are special like let me cry please if I
Yeah.
want to cry
Yeah.
let me cry thank you very much but I understand sometimes you need to move on
Hmm.
and also I think sometimes we just get fall in love with ideas not with people but that's another story but we need to like get the process back because then people are like of course they are depressed because they think everything is instant
Hmm. Yeah.
and of course
Yeah.
they're depressed because even when they get it it's like oh but this didn't brought me happiness no amigo that was not going to brought you happiness it's like the process
Hmm.
what you were expecting come on
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
thank
No,
god
I
I'm
mean,
not a
like, I,
child nowadays.
sorry.
Thank God I'm not a child nowadays because I would be not good. It wouldn't be good for me.
Yeah. 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 No, that's I'm glad I just avoided like that. I grew up at least like with like, not constantly online. That wasn't until like high
Yes,
school.
I mean, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, no, because I guess I reached out to you, and I was like, I had like a bit of a heartbreak moment, and just on the topic of that, like it's like yeah, because it was probably like 3 or 4 days of just being very like sad and not really knowing what to do,
Mm,
but also like um there is something about once you're out of that where the process itself is very like I don't know, you appreciate life, like you see kind of the ebbs and flows, like the ups and downs,
mm,
and it's quite beautiful in a way. Like it's like you still like appreciate it, and you kind of come out of it with a sort of like serenity or like calmness, I think, like which I appreciate, I guess, because yeah, people are just like they'll go through like a heartbreak or like a breakup, and then they immediately will just go and do really impulsive things, or they'll just anything to get them out of the moment. And sometimes, at least for me, I was like, I recognized I hadn't had that feeling in a while, and it was good to just kind of sit there and feel it, even though it was quite
mm.
painful. But yeah, yeah.
You just need to give you I think like when you don't feel your emotions in time I think people are some people are I'm not really good at that I wish sometimes but I'm not to like sometimes to block my emotions and put it aside but I think when you do that I done that only once in my life and I think when emotions came back to me they hit me
Mm,
so hard it was like a boomerang and once it came back it destroyed me and I
mm,
think like repressing your emotions not giving you that time for like grieving
mm-hmm,
like to for like sadness like to make like your process your own personal emotional process
mm-hmm.
it will damage you more like maybe in 1 year like on some months like it would be
Mm-hmm,
even worse if you have like blocked that and no
mm-hmm.
I will just get into a relationship or something like that no and that way you're going to hurt
Yeah.
yourself the person you're going to like
Mm,
there's a saying in Spanish like if you don't heal your wounds, you're going to spread your blood on other people.
mm, mm. That's really that's really
Like,
good and really dark.
it's like
Wow.
very it's very hard, but I think in a way it's true. Like if you don't heal yourself, you're going to like everyone is going to get hurt. Like people are going to get hurt.
Hmm.
So you really need to give yourself that time. Also, you will grow a lot out of that experience. But of course, that's shitty when you know that feeling when you're so sad that you can even feel like you can like move places because you're so sad. It's horrible.
Oh, what do you mean? Like you move like oh, like you,
Have you been like something so sad, like it's like I can't move out of this car, like this seat, like this my bed or something. I'm
oh
so sad I
yeah,
don't have the energy. It's
yeah,
horrible.
yeah. It just feels like it physically feels.
Oh,
You feel kind
it's
of sick, like
horrible.
you're.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
worst. It's the horrible. It's horrible. Like blood is horrible. Like I
Well,
feel you. That's horrible.
it's like every organism, like when you poke it, it's gonna want to move away. But the problem is
Yeah.
like when you're sad and it's like inside, it's like you don't have anywhere to go, so you just feel like you're constantly trying to not be where you are, but you know that no matter wherever you go, you're still gonna feel this way. Um,
Oh, it's horrible.
yeah, yeah,
And especially when you are like sad and there's like a lot of people and you are like numbed out of your own sadness, like you can't focus on anything else, like just
yeah,
I don't know, missing that person and that feel, oh, it's terrible. It's
yeah,
like I know this. We are sitting here saying like, oh, you should go through that process. Like, but man, I feel you. Like that shit is horrible. Like I
yeah.
wouldn't desire that for anyone. That's
Oh
terrible.
yeah,
That's horrible.
yeah. Like
Horrible.
my word of advice from that isn't as much as like people should actively seek out suffering. It's more like you will inevitably confront suffering in life, and then if you're going through it, the best thing to do is to probably like I mean, if you can't do anything about it, like if it's grief, the best thing to do is to really like probably sit with it for a little bit, like honestly sit with it, not like wallow in it and make it like self-pity and you're like, oh my god, I'm like such a victim or like this happened, but just like just genuinely just feel like the emotion. And and then like you said, then maybe you won't create more suffering by trying to avoid it, because it will always like come back in some way.
Just you have to give yourself the space, and but I also think if you give yourself the space, I think even it's horrible what I'm saying because I feel like I'm speculating, but when you give yourself the space to feel, it
Hmm.
goes away
Hmm.
faster.
Yeah.
So I'm not speculating, this is my experience, so I don't know with other people, but I think when I give myself the space, it just. And also one thing that it helped me a lot during hard times is just sometimes that I'm trying to do it, especially nowadays that I'm older, and it's like just surrender. When something didn't work, especially when it comes to love, but something didn't work, it's just surrender, like, and just accept it. I just accept it. And once my friend told me, like, the fact that it works is an exception. So it's very common to get your heart
Hmm.
broken. Like if you want
Hmm.
to date people, you want to know people, like go out in life, it's impossible not to get hurt. So when you're kind of in a way like accepting that and like normalizing that,
Yeah.
it's impossible not to get hurt. It's impossible like to protect your heart from
Yeah.
everything. It's like it's not life. It's like you're avoiding life.
Well, I always think of it as because I have this problem where I can like I don't I don't think it's common for me to get like intense
Hurt.
feelings for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to end up getting hurt. But what ends up happening is like when I do, it's very much like I love the idea of like trying to hold on to sand like in your hand, where like you can only really hold sand by like keeping your like palm open, and then the more you try to like actually hold onto it and squeeze it, the more it will all fall out. And I can like end up kind of holding on too much or trying to hold on too much, that it actually just makes things worse. And kind of there's a sort of potency in maybe not detachment but accepting kind of loss or change that is integral to actually like when you confront something or somebody that you love, like to not hold on so much that you actually end up like squeezing them to death in a way and like or
Yeah.
ruining the situation in some way, even afterwards, like with yourself, like overly thinking about it too much and
Oh my
ruminating.
god. There's a sorry that I interrupt. There's a phrase. Have you seen that movie like Spirit Away? Something like that. It's like El viaje de Chihiro. It's like
Yeah,
have
yeah,
you seen
Studio Ghibli. Yeah, yeah.
I am sure you have seen them. Like in one of moment of the movie, like the girl is like someone gave her flowers and she says like, oh mom, I ruined my flowers. And she says like, because you hold them too much, like you got too attached to them, you have hold them like so strong to you, you have like you broke them. I was like, no, well that hurt so much. Like
Hmm.
I felt like that was for me. I was like, no, I
Yeah.
broke my flowers because I got too attached to them. And it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you break things when you get too, like, you hold them too tight
Hmm. That's why like
until you find a
yeah.
person that is for you. And then, you don't.
I
Because the
think
person is going to feel the same way.
yeah. Well, I think even with like a healthy relationship, at least for me, like it's like not holding too tight. Like I think when you start getting like jealous or you start like wanting things to be a certain way, you can end up kind of like the whole reason why you genuinely love somebody is that is for who they are. So you have to kind of accept their agency and their autonomy and their potential, and that involves even accepting the potential that maybe they're not with you. Like that's kind of what like love is. Like it can't be this like trying to imprison people in this one situation, which is really hard. And that's probably why, like you said, like love can be like such an exception, because it's rare when you find a situation where that works out. But
Totally, it's
yeah.
rare. Like, we both are going, like, to, we both want this. We are both like wanting to build this, like, together. Like, we are the timing. We are like the timing, the personality, the good sex, the so many factors. Come on,
Yeah.
like, it's difficult. This is the exception that works. And but then it's what makes connections so special. It what makes partnerships so special. It what makes that is that it's not that common. So
Hmm.
in a way, I cherish that. Every time something doesn't work, it's like, it's just like, there are a lot of amazing people, but if it didn't work, it didn't work. Like, you have to be sure that you give your best and just stay with that. I give my
Hmm.
best. I tried my best, and when you tried your best, I think your mind is at peace. You're
Hmm.
at ease with yourself.
Hmm. That's quite nice. Um, what do you think is sort of like the role of spirituality in love and in like relationships? Like, do you think that it should play a larger role in like the dating world, like in like nowadays? I know that's like a very vague
No, but I think
question.
I got an answer. I think I
Hmm.
understand a bit what I would say, like, in two ways. It's amazing when you're like, both personal and maybe interested in, like, the topic, like, spiritual topic. I think it's like a great way too much. It's amazing when the other person is like you, like, that phrase that is like, find someone that understands your soul, so you don't have to translate, yeah, your whole life. So I
Mm.
think it's very good when you're like in the same, and I
Yeah.
don't, to find someone that can teach you something about, like, teach me and I teach you. I think everyone is teaching each other, but it's good at that. But I think the key factor spirituality can help in dating is surrender. So surrender, just saying, if this person is for me, it's going to work out. If it's not, because sometimes I feel like a huge part of dating is that anxiety is like, he's not texting me, he wrote me 3 words, what he's trying to say is like, no, 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 no,
Mm.
no, I'm not doing that. That was I was doing it when I was 20. Now it's like, if it's going to work, it's going to work. If it's not going to work, it's not for me. I'm not from that person. It's
Mhm.
he will find someone that's good for him, and I will find someone that's good for me. Because if not, if you put that much energy, like that control, it's fear, and fear is the opposite of love. So I
Mhm.
feel like releasing, just like, yeah, it's not detachment. I wouldn't say detach. Is I would say it's just surrender.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I quite like that. The idea of the presence of fear in love can be very. I think it hints at like kind of inequality in a relationship. Like there's like
Mm,
somebody has all of the cards, and the other person has kind of they have to do everything, and the other person that like is kind of fearful might actually kind of want that situation too. They might actually want
totally.
to be in a situation where at least somebody can like give them validation if they just do the right things for a short period of time. Um, that's
I agree.
super toxic, but yeah, that's like a
But it happens all the time. Like, it
yeah.
happens all the time because when fear gets involved, especially from like this kind of like, when fear gets involved, power gets involved.
Mm.
And one of the persons like playing, the person that is like giving the drug, and the drug addict, like, so like, oh, I will decide when you get the drug. And the other person is like anxious, like, no, no, I need more, I
Yeah.
need more. Like, when fear gets involved, it gets to a power struggle. It's not love, it's just a power struggle. And I understand that sometimes we are like used to that because we didn't knew better, because we
Hmm.
didn't knew, like, we don't know, we are not, nobody teaches how to like ourselves, how
Hmm.
not to like So I think in a lot of ways, it's very important to know that like love is not a power struggle. It's not. It's not
Hmm.
that.
Do you
Because
think
if
that?
it's that,
Mm,
like you don't need that in your life. That's
yeah.
not love. You deserve better than that.
Hmm. Do you think that there's a place for power in love, or do you think that love can only like it can only really happen like because there is something nice about that, but I also think it's like super probably very idealistic, just
Yeah,
how
yeah,
we
yeah.
are. Yeah.
I'm too idealistic. But yes, I think I understand the thing. Like I know that everything it's like power. Power is like always there, and I understand some kind of like power game, but as a game, not as a part of a relationship.
Mm,
If like the power struggle, we are going to play it as a game. Okay, but it's not part of the identity of the relationship. It's not the core of the relationship. I think I see relationships more like friendships good with good sex, because I am training myself to think about that in that way, because if not, it gets really toxic. Like it gets really toxic. Like that's why love relationships get more toxic than friendships.
mm.
And I'm not talking about like open relationship things like that, because I'm not so evolved. My brain is not that evolved. I can't do that. I'm not that in that level. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry, universe. But it really, I think, no, I can't. I swear, I try to brainwash myself to thinking that that's the way. I can't.
Yeah.
I would die. I would cry. I would cry.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't be able to do it.
Everybody has their like limits. It's like and like preferences and stuff, and we don't really have much of a say in what
But
those
I
are.
swear that in theory it's very nice. Like you know, like you can be with anyone. You're free. Like, but I'm
Hmm.
like in reality, like to be honest, I will cry if you are. If I'm with someone that goes, I will cry. I won't lie to you. So in theory, I'm really understanding, you know. But then
Hmm.
in practice, I don't think I will be able to do it. So I'm not
Yeah.
talking about level. But if you think about it in a friendship with good sex, and that's the best thing, because you want to see your friends grow. You're not that jealous of your friends. They're not like power struggles. They're not competition. You want to see your friends shine.
Hmm.
That's the same thing you want for your partner, like shine. Like, you know, my mother, she's like always very like very she's not like, she doesn't agree with people who get married too young, because she's your prefrontal cortex is not developed before 25. You shouldn't take decisions that are too.
That's
So I was
funny.
like, she
Yeah.
doesn't, don't take decisions that will define your life. So she's like also about that, but she also said like a good partnership will give you wings. It will make you like top. But a bad relationship, it will destroy you. And it's like that. Partners have a lot of, we have a lot of flat power like with each other. It's not like a friendship in a way
Hmm.
of that they the amount of like, yeah, how much they get into your life, you know, it's much more. So I think you really, people should be, we should be very picky
Hmm.
in a good way.
Hmm. Oh, I totally agree. Yeah. I love the idea of it being like a game because there's this it reminds me of there's this anthropologist David Graeber who's like a
Yeah.
anarchist, like he's which kind of separates him from a lot of other anthropologists. He recently passed away, but he somebody asked him like what he thinks anarchy is, and it's he sees it as like where power isn't like gone, but it's like a game. And he studied a lot of cultures that it's quite common nowadays to people either argue that humans are like egalitarian or they're hierarchical, and then they will cite like some society and then be like, oh, in this society a long time ago they were really like they were like kings, and then there was like a servant class, and then other people will say like, oh, but in this society everybody was like there was no ruler and everybody was,
Yes.
and so he was kind of like, why? I think the real question we should be asking is why is there so much variety? And one of the reasons is he found a lot of societies that they would, depending on the seasons, they would switch roles. So like in the summer they would be very hierarchical, and in the winter they would be very egalitarian. And so your neighbor in February would be the king, and he would be like ordering you to do stuff. And then in the winter, like maybe you're the king, or maybe you guys are like friends or something. So, and what it does is that it teaches, it's like a weird sort of equality where it teaches like there's still going to be power and imbalances, but you could be in any role and they could be in any role, and it makes this sort of mutual respect between people. And at least I
Yes,
think,
and that would be
yeah,
great
yeah,
if you
like
get a
with
like, partnership.
yeah, yeah,
It's
no,
the
yeah,
best.
with a romantic relationship, like I think that it's like they can have their say and they can take the talking stick and they can like, you know, they can have their power, they can have most of the power for a little bit, but then that's knowing that you can also like, there isn't like going to be this imbalance. Because yeah, I think people just equally just getting along all the time, it would be, I think that almost removes a little bit of the passion also from the um like
You think?
the relationship.
No, nothing
No.
takes out the passion. The passion is the key of the relationship. Or maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe it's
Well,
because I'm from Latin America. But the passion is everything. It's the key element of the relationship.
well,
The
there's that
passion.
the I think it was like Oscar Wilde, and he says like he's like art, the economy, society, everything is about sex except for sex. Sex is about power.
The power.
And that's like where
Yeah.
the, yeah, that's where like the, I think the passion comes in, is that it's because it's playing with power all the time, which I think we're
That
just.
sex, in a way, it's a game. The best thing
Mhm,
about sex is that sex is a game. Sex is just you just like your mind goes off and you just play a game. It's like a
mhm,
game. It's a sport, a game.
mhm,
That's what is. But in my opinion, I know that there's no like for we are not giving answers to anything. Like it's my perspective. For me, it's just like a game. That's what
mhm,
sex is. Just we turn off our brain and we just enjoy and like it's a game.
mhm. Well, I think like, I think that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that it's like power is involved, and in relationships and sex it's involved, but it's like it's not forgetting that at the end of the day it's a game, like it's fun, it's like for play, it's not like a the
To
serious
distract
like.
each other.
Yeah, because I'm very like, because I used to do this, and I think a lot of guys also do this, where I think they try to find like salvation or some sort of like, they have some sort of emptiness and they need to like, you know, find somebody that will like make them feel like their life is worth it or something, and it's like this really romantic like kind of, I think in the end unhealthy uh motivation to end up in a relationship. It's not like, you know, I think it's much better to pursue somebody because it's like it's playful with them, or it's like it's like you said, like they're like a friend, like they're, you
They
know, like.
make you better, like because in that I think when you pursue a relationship for the other reason, because I don't think it's only men, I think women, like
Mm,
everyone does that. I think then in 3 months you're going to want to just jump out of the window,
yeah,
like in
yeah,
6 months, like this, that's not like
it's
that's
too
not good,
extreme.
like
Yeah.
this doesn't have a good end.
Well, it's like life is already so intense and can be so difficult. Why would you add another element of that to like making some, almost like your relationships like a self improvement program or something? It's like it's too
Totally,
much.
like
Like, yeah.
yeah, and also like to be honest, like so many things sometimes in life um are very mediocre, even if
Hmm.
you don't want to, like sometimes routine and like you don't know, like good, I understand that because it's life and we have responsibilities, but I'm not doing that in love. I'm
Hmm.
not going to like not in love, like not in I'm not like no
Hmm.
not in love. You can like I would negotiate that in other areas of my life, but not in love.
Yeah.
Not in love.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's like with, I think there's a trend with like therapy talk a lot, where people talk to their partner in a very kind of distant, clinical way that I think
Mm.
kind of, you know, it could like on paper be good, but I think it also removes a bit of like the whole reason why you're like in love with somebody, which is like there's like some sort of ambiguity, there's some sort of like shortness of words, there's subtext, there's like that's where a lot of the passion. Byung-Chul Han, he also talks about the difference between something being pornographic versus something being erotic, and the erotic is something that doesn't show all, there's always like something to be disclosed. And I think that therapy talk is almost like pornographic for love, like it like makes it just so bland and everything's out there and you're talking to each other like kind of like robots almost, which I don't know. For me, at least for me, I would struggle, I think, to be interested for that long if the relationship became so clinical, I
So
guess.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It needs to be like a roller coaster, but like not like a one that's gonna like kill me or anything. Like not like
In the way that the
a.
other person in a way force you to improve yourself, like I think being in a relationship is like also like a it's must be amazing, but it's like a it's the other person is like always like pointing you out. It's not that easy, it's not that comfortable.
No.
It's amazing, but it's not comfortable. So yeah, in a way it's like that, because you're like always have to improve. The other person is pushing you to get better, you're pushing the other person to get better.
Hmm.
You evolve faster, but it's not comfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be like this because it's good, but not all the time, because we are trying to improve each other. I try to
Do
do
you
that
think?
even with my friends.
Hmm.
They do that with me. I think they always push me and I'm trying to improve, but so it's a good thing about relationships.
Hmm. Do you think that like that's why sometimes people just are in dating, they're just looking for almost like to date themselves in some way, because they know that they if they find somebody that's exactly like them, then they won't have to deal with the ups and downs. They can just kind of like they can just live a very kind of
But you think
big.
you can avoid the ups and downs in a relationship? I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't.
No,
I think
no.
you can run away from them. You can't.
Hmm.
But you need to like, instead of like avoiding, it's like, okay, we're both of us like I trying. We both like in this relationship. Both want this to like last. So we are both going to together fight
Hmm.
this problem, fight this issue, like talk this problem, talk until we are tired, but we talk this like
Hmm.
communication about
Hmm.
everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you will be good.
yeah. No, I agree. Let me just see if I have any, because we're already, it's been an hour.
Ooh,
Um,
we got into time.
yes. Um, okay. I guess like my last thing is to go back to psychology. Um, can do you think like spirituality can help answer sort of the more difficult issues in psychology, like consciousness, self insight? I know you mentioned Carl Jung. Like he
Yes.
was famous for trying to unite like spirituality with psychoanalysis.
He
Yeah.
was Leo, like you. He was Leo. I love him. Like I love him. Yeah, yes. If I could choose a one person, like at least that to have a dinner and talk, I would be him. Like, oh my god,
That's a
what
very
a
very
mind!
good.
What a mind! Genius. No, no, no. I love him.
Hmm.
But I think totally, totally. I think if you go even with like the psychologists, for example, Viktor Frank, those kinds of psychology, more the existentialism part of
Hmm.
psychology, that in a way, spiritual is like a huge part of like their psychology treatment, we can say.
Hmm.
Even that perspective, I think spirituality, it's I don't know, I think we all need that, because sometimes life, you sometimes there are some things in life that are so hard, even the daily life, it can get so like, oh, okay, this is all there is out there, or something's really hard happen to you, that someone that you love dies, or something takes like really hard things, like if you don't brought like spirituality in the scene, if you don't
Hmm.
put that part there, I don't think I would not be able to and to cope with life. I won't say that in because that's very dramatic, but I think we all need that. It's very dramatic.
Hmm. And
I
how
think
do
yeah,
yeah.
it's compliment.
Hmm. How do you like personally practice like spirituality in your life? If that's not too intimate of a
No,
question.
I know. Come on, you can ask me what nothing is. I gotta ask me whatever. I think most of thing I do is, first of all, meditation in the morning.
Hmm.
I don't know, but when I stop meditating, I can feel the difference. So meditation in the morning, for me, like reading at night is like a kind of like meditation, because I try to read something like this this way. I'm not going to read about economics at night. I
Yeah.
want to go to sleep reading about this kind of like really deep message, like something else that's not so like of the physical world. So that meditation, reading, writing,
Hmm.
writing,
Yeah.
and in a way I pray a lot. I pray a lot all the time, but it's not like a praying in, I like religions in general. I like to learn about them. So in a way, when I learned about religions, is I feel like I'm like feeding my spiritual side too, because I'm
Mm.
like learning from them. So even hearing like podcasts or like interviews, or hearing my friends talking about their religions, or trying to read something about that religion, that's in a way it helps me to feed my spirituality, because it
Mm.
gives me like knowledge.
Hmm. Hmm.
So for me, it's very hand to hand with meditation, affirmations, writing, and acquiring new knowledge.
Mm. Yeah, that's
And
great.
you? For you?
Well, I mean, like one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because I feel like this is a aspect of my life that I think I have neglected for a while. Like I meditate or like, but I'm not good at like doing it consistently. And I have more recently like been very interested in like awe. It's one of the reasons why I went to Patagonia was
Yeah.
because I wanted to. I feel like that can be a very spiritual experience in terms of experiencing something, seeing something, being with something that you
Magical.
can't like bring words to really, like you can't explain it, and it kind of alters you in some way. It kind of puts things into a different perspective. And there's so much like research on this also. I made like a very strong effort to at least like once a week try to do like watch a movie or go to an art show or just even go and like walk in like the parks in like Montreal just to, or go to concerts, like just something to like that feels just kind of like awe, like you're wowed by something. um
Yes, you're connected. I think each one connects with that energy in a different way. I
mhm,
think some people do it when they are running. I think like really like some people when they are swimming, some people when they're just like sitting down drinking their coffee. Like I think we all are, the thing about spirituality is like knowing that it's already inside of you. Like in a way like God is like inside of you. So it's
mhm.
just recognizing that energy, reconnecting with that energy in yourself. It's not something outside of you. It's just something inside of you. So just find a way in which you feel good, that feels you like you are connecting with the source again.
You know, like there was when I used to meditate more consistently, there was like a sometimes after like if I would go beyond 30 minutes or something, I would start to feel like really, really good. Like a weird kind
Like
of
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
something
Yeah,
like
like weird. And I remember it would kind of scare me because I was like, that's it's so weird because you could just be sitting in your room and then but
feel joy.
yeah, but the trick was like I had to really not be like thinking about it or doing it because of that. It was like always, but I hadn't like had that feeling for a long time. And then,
Like
um,
surrender.
yeah, yeah, like you just, I don't know, everything is just kind of good. But the, near Bariloche, like, there's Isla Victoria, like I don't know if you know, there's like those, it's the very famous trees. They're called like myrtle, they would be kind of like myrtle trees. Um, they're, they're this kind of very light brown and they kind of have like white patches on them.
And
And
they're very, very, very old.
I
Yes, I know
think
what you,
yeah, yeah, and you have to like take a boat like 2 hours to go see them and like
I think I know. I haven't been there, but I think I know what you're talking
yeah.
about.
But I was there and there's something about it was I was kind of left alone, like we kind of walked into like a path where there was nobody. And I was like I kind of felt that again, like it was just kind of like it was
Yes.
the air quality was just so like nice, and the trees it was just kind of they were kind of swaying like a little bit. And the sun was like kind of going through, but it really like it was the whole reason why I guess I kind of went, like was for something like that, like it was just to um uh, I guess feel something like that. And I do believe like life is like probably at its most justifiable, or it's like the reason why we live is for these kind of brief, you can call them spiritual moments or just moments of awe or feeling of connection and like peace with yourself and like with other people. um, and I guess I encourage people to like go and like writing also, I feel that too, like when I'm writing and making stuff I can feel that way. But yeah, but yeah, I think overall I need to work on this area a bit more, the spiritual dimension of my life.
Spiritual.
Yeah,
But to
yeah.
be honest, it's like really about connecting with yourself. But I think even like, for example, I think that I have been trying to work on my spiritual side, like since I'm a kid, because of these things that I told you that happen. But I think that sometimes even I feel like disconnected. So sometimes to find, this helped me a lot, to find a therapist that is like very that area related, if you can, of course, if you can afford therapy and things like that. But if you can have that, maybe that, like having a therapist that is more related to that area, to have like
Hmm.
a spiritual mentor, I think we need that, like we need some guidance sometimes. So I think that helped me a lot. That even helps me in the days I feel disconnected.
Hmm.
Like she's like my, she guides me. Not, she doesn't give me, she just guides me back to myself, like how to go back to yourself.
Hmm. Mm.
So I think in a way, having mentors and having like a spiritual guide or something, like it can redirect you back to yourself. It's very
Right.
good.
Okay, so I will. Uh, that was everything I have to ask you. If you have anything to ask me, also, if not, thank you very much for coming on.
But I
Yeah.
have something to ask. I have
Oh,
something
you
to ask.
do? Okay.
Yeah, I want to know how would you like define like a happy, because we were like got into this topic about relationship, like how would you define in your words, I want your personal opinion, like a happy relationship.
A happy relation, like a happy romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what I said. It's where two people honor each other's agency and at the same time appreciate each other's presence in their life, with the idea that in some way you are not filling a void for the other person, but you are enhancing their existence in some way. Um,
Ah, it's
yeah,
so good, I love it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Hopefully, yeah.
That's a really good that's a really
Thank
good
you, thank
definition.
you. Yeah, yeah. Super easy question to answer. So,
Just like,
yeah,
just a little normal question, daily questions. I thank you so much for having me. It was my
Oh
pleasure to
no,
be
it
here.
was great. Sorry so much for taking so long to respond and stuff. It took me going to
No,
Argentina to remember, and then I was like, right.
please, but don't worry. No, no, no. I'm super chill.
Hmm.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay. And
Really, you can.
I was reading on your website. You're writing a book right now. You're in the process of writing
Yeah,
a book. Yes. Okay. And do you have an idea of when roughly that'll
I think if everything goes good, I don't know, but maybe by the beginning of next year.
by the beginning of next year? Okay. Cool. All right. So thank you for coming on. You can check
Oh,
out
thank you for having
Camila's
me.
Instagram, Duali Cosmica, and
Mhm.
yeah, thank you. Uh,
Thank you for having me.
this video was sponsored by Blinkist. I'm super excited to share with you guys my latest sponsorship with Blinkist, a super cool app that helps you get the key insights from the world's best nonfiction books in just 15 minutes. As someone who loves to learn and grow, but also has a super busy schedule, I'm always looking for ways to fit more knowledge and personal development into my day. That's where Blinkist comes in. With their massive library of more than 5,500 books covering everything from business and career advice to health and wellness, there's something for everyone on Blinkist. I've been really enjoying The Aesthetic Brain by Anjan Chatterjee, which breaks down the psychology behind our enjoyment of beauty. I would highly recommend it for anyone interested in either art or psychology. And no matter where I want to read books like The Aesthetic Brain, I can find a way thanks to Blinkist, whether I prefer to listen to the audio versions on the go or read through the key takeaways on my lunch break. Now there's also Blinkist Connect, a new feature that allows every Blinkist premium plan to be shared by two different accounts, and it's also where you can share titles with your best friends and find new inspirations together. This is a 2-for-1 feature since it's free to the person you invite for as long as you're sharing it with them. I highly recommend giving Blinkist a try if you're looking for a convenient way to stay motivated and inspired. You can get 25% off Blinkist Premium and enjoy 2 memberships for the price of 1. Start your 7-day free trial by clicking here at blinkist.com/Sisyphus.